Hi, I'm MacClements. I'm an architect, illustrator, graffiti artist and fine artist. So currently I'm exhibiting a piece which stems from my first solo exhibition as an artist called the Zeitsmacher, which is a fine art hand-drawn architectural illustration which captures the Zeitsmacher in a sort of very esoteric and ethereal light. The building, originally designed by Thomas Heatherwick, was interpreted as a lantern. Well, the concept thereof was trying to see how this building would look within the landscape as a lantern. And so for me, I decided to create this artwork on showcase, trying to complement that through a negative and positive space of light and dark through my hatching. And my art in this specific light takes on a very, very soft approach of sketching. It's a constant layering of line. It takes on a life of its own through the process of sketching. However, originally being an architect and studying architecture, it draws its inspiration from composition and trying to create a building that is inspired by perspective. So I've always been heavily inspired by Cape Town as a city, and this particular series is an ode to some of my favorite buildings in Cape Town. So the inspiration really comes from trying to capture architecture in a contemporary light, which South Africa, I believe, is moving towards. So this building has been inspired by that, yeah. So as an architect, one of the important things for us to get right in our drawings is not necessarily the perspective, and in my belief as an architect, it's not necessarily trying to get the correct perspective and composition of the space, but rather to try and capture the space in a light that really brings to life the quality of that space. So for me, I don't necessarily start out with correcting and drawing out the right perspective. It's more about freeing the hand. It's more about creating this loose interpretive understanding of the space and what we see in the building. That then translates itself into form, and then the perspective and so on starts to render itself through this constant layering process. In architecture, there's also a term that we like to use frequently, which is called palimpsest. It's a French word for the idea of layering. And my art and architecture takes on that process, that narrative of layering, where I actually score the paper first, and then I go through the process of hatching and layering and drawing out the piece. So the drawing process for me is really about freeing the hand and trying as best you can to feel the space in the architecture rather than trying to create this hyper-realistic impression of it. It's more about understanding why the architecture has been created through interpretation, I guess.